received a lethal dose of a toxic virus. A federal agent who traveled with the president also contracted the disease. However, the president himself was not even tested for the swine flu. I contend that the key staff of the president saw no need to test the president because they knew he had been vaccinated in advance against the virus that the team helped release. President Obama went into Mexico and left unscathed in spite of the growing swine flu emergency. Authorities canceled school at all levels in Mexico City and the state of Mexico until further notice, and the government has shut most public and government activities in the area. The emergency decree, published today in the State Gazette, gives the president authority to take more action. http://www.bloomberg.com/apps/news. PID equals 20,601,087 and SID equals S-nonab6Q and refer equals home. The federal government under my charge will not hesitate a moment to take all the measures necessary to respond with efficiency and opportunity to this respiratory epidemic, Calderon said today during a speech to inaugurate a hospital in the southern state of Oaxaca. At least 20 deaths in Mexico from the disease are confirmed, Health Minister Jose Cordova said yesterday. The strain is a variant of H1N1 swine influenza that has also sickened at least 8 people in California and Texas. As many as 68 deaths may be attributed to the virus in Mexico, and about 1,000 people in the Mexico City area are showing symptoms of the illness, Córdoba said. In the event of a level 6 pandemic level designation from the WHO, President Obama has the right to implement emergency measures. Americans would be subject to compulsory vaccinations and possible detention because of the Patriot Act 1, Patriot 2, BARDA, BioShield I, BioShield 2, BARDA, Federal or State Emergency Medical Powers Acts, FEMA and other laws, provisions, and regulations. Also, as the pressure increases on Obama to produce a valid birth certificate, Obama and his international criminal syndicate backers are seeking to accelerate the declaration of a pandemic, level 6 by WHO to avert the political destabilization of their front man. Lawsuits have been filed contesting that Obama is ineligible to be President of the United States of America because he is not a natural-born citizen as defined by U.S. law because, among other reasons, Hawaii, the birthplace of Obama's mother, was not a state. Presidential office requires a natural-born citizen if the child was not born to two U.S. citizen parents. U.S. law very clearly stipulates, if only one parent was a U.S. citizen at the time of your birth, that parent must have resided in the United States for at least 10 years, at least 5 of which had to be after the age of 16. Barack Obama's father was not a U.S. citizen and Obama's mother was only 18 when Obama was born, which means though she had been a U.S. citizen for 10 years, 65, or citizen perhaps because of Hawaii being a territory, the mother fails the test for being so for at least 5 years prior to Barack Obama's birth, but after age 16, it doesn't matter after. In essence, she was not old enough to qualify her son for automatic U.S. citizenship. At most, there were only 2 years elapsed since his mother turned 16 at the time of Barack Obama's birth. When she was 18 in Hawaii, his mother would have needed to have been 16 plus 5 equals 21 years old at the time of Barack Obama's birth for him to have been a natural-born citizen. As aforementioned, she was a young college student at the time and was not. Barack Obama was already 3 years old at that time. His mother would have needed to have waited to have him as the only U.S. citizen parent. Obama instead should have been naturalized, but even then, that would still disqualify him from holding the office. So far, President Obama has not produced verifiable, unambiguous evidence that he meets the criteria of a natural-born citizen. We contend Obama is actually the member of a foreign-based crime gang that has used fraudulent means to get their member Barack Obama in office so they can use him as an instrument to take control of the economic, political and military structures of the USA. The plan is to give him the powers of a dictator under the pretext of implementing martial law to deal with a pandemic or a false flag nuclear attack or the consequences of hyperinflation that the same group have themselves engineered by manipulating the financial markets and creating debt. Once martial law is declared, Homeland Security will be used to terrorize the population of the USA, taking on a role similar to the Gestapo in Nazi Germany to enforce mass vaccinations, imprisonment in FEMA camps and quarantines in towns and cities. A wave of arrests is planned to arrest and kill all political opponents. Further, a bill calling for an audit of the Federal Reserve, which is gathering steam in Congress, could reveal the extent of the financial crimes committed by the Federal Reserve Chairman and his international backers, a further reason for the crime elite to seek an excuse to declare martial law to destroy opponents and evidence of their crimes. 14. Evidence as to whose manipulation of disease data in order to justify declaring a pandemic. Level 6 in order to seize control of the USA. F. William Engdahl discusses the way who is seeking to amplify the dangers associated with the swine flu, which so far has been so mild that it is indistinguishable from ordinary flu. At a press conference on June 11, the CDC confirmed that 27 people had died so far from the swine flu in the U.S., but 36,000 people die from the seasonal influenza every year. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, the average global burden of pandemic influenza may be on the order of 1 billion cases per year, leading to 300,000–500,000 deaths worldwide. In temperate climate zones, seasonal epidemics typically begin in the late fall and peak in midwinter, infecting about 5 to 15% of the population each season, while in tropical zones the virus can be isolated year-round. The disease can affect all age groups, but rates of infections are highest among young children who spread the virus and are a potential source of infection in older age cohorts, whereas rates of serious illness, complications and death are highest.
And Congress and the Senate knew that Hawaii was a territory and that Obama's birth certificate did not prove that he was a citizen. In fact, it proved, although it's fake, it proved that he was not a citizen. And yet again, they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, and they should have been locked up for treason a long time ago. But he won another term after this in 2012, as everybody knows. And the reason why this is in the report is to stress the fact of how much trouble Americans were in 2009. And a lot of you think that Obama was for the Muslims, he was Muslim Brotherhood and blah, blah, blah. No, Valerie Jarrett is an Israeli asset, and she was Obama's handler. Just like everything Israel does, they point the finger at the Arab nations to foster hate and division, when all along it's been Israel and U.S. protecting them via vetoes for their crimes for the last 77 years.
66. In persons aged 65 years and older, as well as in persons with chronic cardiac or respiratory conditions. The efficacy of vaccination in reducing the burden of the disease, as well as the economic burden of treating influenza, is well established. Asterisk who redefined pandemic as widespread, spreading from human to human but not particularly dangerous, changing it from its previous definition of widespread, rapidly spreading, and very dangerous in order to justify the pandemic declaration. If the WHO doesn't declare a pandemic level 6 every year when the seasonal flu wave kills tens of thousands of people in the USA, then why declare a pandemic level 6 now when the swine flu has killed only 27 people? Who's rushed to declare a pandemic level on June 11 when the CDC said in a press conference that the number of cases was decreasing was because such a declaration triggers the handover of power over the USA and other parts of the world to WHO and the UN, front agencies for the international global elite. In a report dated June 5, http://www.globalresearch.ca/index.php, context equals VA and 8 equals 13,856, F. William Engdahl takes a shot at the flying pigs, swine flu. The WHO plays with pandemic fire. The continuing saga of the flying pigs pandemic flu by F. William Engdahl. Global Research, June 5, 2009. According to information from within the World Health Organization in Geneva, the UN organization supposedly monitoring global health dangers, WHO Director General Margaret Chan plans to declare a Phase 6 official pandemic alert in the coming days. This bizarre act, if declared, would come at a time that the country which had to date reported far the latest number of suspected H1N1 cases, the USA, has simply arbitrarily stopped reporting new cases. If you consider to let your family get scared into taking drugs like Tamiflu that not only do not prevent or even ameliorate symptoms of flu, but in some cases are so toxic they cause severe paralysis, breathing problems and even death, you should at least know the facts before the report that WHO may declare an official pandemic global alert any time is all the more bizarre, given the fact that the global wave of cases reported to date to WHO from around the world reportedly have been so mild as to be indistinguishable from the symptoms of ordinary flu, and the relatively small number of deaths alleged tied to swine flu as it originally was named appear in no way definitely tied to H1N1 causes. In a May 28 CDC press briefing, the CDC reported, "When we look at our deaths, we have information on 11 of the 12 deaths that have been reported to us so far, and it appears that 10 of those fatalities occurred in people who had an underlying condition that put them at greater risk for severe complications of influenza. That is what epidemiologists call correlation, not causality, or opportunistic infection deaths. European epidemiologists privately believe that there is no proven link between supposed H1N1 influenza A illness and the deaths, rather that the deaths are coincidence, or what health
Suppressed immune system via the vaccine, remember? The report mentioned that earlier.
'67. Professionals term opportunistic infections. The CDC report would seem to strengthen that argument. US CDC stops